Brought to you by Prescient Investment Management. Informed by science. Guided by insight. Prescient Investment Management is an authorized FSP.
Welcome to another episode of Honest Money. Today we need to talk about money for a kind of a particular age group. We're doing a bit of discrimination today, where we're not talking to the kids and we're not talking to old people. We're talking to millennials and maybe about millennials. And unfortunately, I'm a bit old for that category now, so I brought in some backup for me on the show today. So we're talking to Nozi Van Heerden. And Nozi's a financial educator, an author, a public speaker, and has her own website that I think is really worthwhile having a look at, Talking Money with Nozi. And I've got it open to the left here just to make sure I don't mess it up, Nozi. And Nozi, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Warren, for having me. I've been a very long time listener of your podcast and love it. And I'm honored to be your guest.
And I appreciate you sharing your time with us, because I think it's, it's an important topic when we're talking about money, and we've got to make sure that, our listeners understand what they need to do with their money. And so I think let's jump in. It's nice thing about honest money is we can kind of go anywhere, right? So we don't have a talking plan where we've got to make some marketing person happy. But I think that maybe the first point is we're talking to millennials about their money, and maybe what are the big mistakes that they tend to make with their money?
Okay, so as a millennial myself, I found that what's the common mistakes, there are two of them that I want to address. There are many, but I'll address two. The first mistake is that millennials don't invest at all. So you'd be surprised that people who invest are largely still the older generation. And sometimes
like
millennials...
me, you can say it. It's okay. You can say it.
So sometimes millennials have got a lot going on in their lives. So these are people in their 30s, approaching their 40s. So they're very busy. This is a very busy time in their life. So they're starting families or raising families. They're buying homes, they're buying cars, and they're also moving up in terms of their careers. So they're so busy. And some of them are taking care or helping to take care of their families back home. And so they're taking care of all these responsibilities and they neglect to invest. The problem with this is that investing needs time to grow. So when we put it off and leave it for later, we are losing out on compound interest. So compound interest is that superpower that makes our investments grow with time. And the longer we stay uninvested, we are losing out. And by the time we wake up in our 40s or 50s, we have missed out on quite a lot of time. The second mistake is that those that do invest let their emotions take over. So when the markets are doing well, and I think this doesn't affect millennials only, I think it affects everybody across the board. So when markets are doing well, everybody wants to pile in. They are buying, the hottest, the latest high-flying stock, which are usually overpriced. They're usually overpriced. But when the market corrects and goes down, which does from time to time, people stop investing, or worse, they sell their at a loss. And so with investing, we need to be more disciplined than that. And the benefits of long-term investing will only be reaped by those who stay the course. So you cannot make emotional decisions when it comes to investing.
Power. I mean, I can't, I'm trying to find a debating point with you, and I just agree with you 100%. So, okay. So now we identify two main issues there. And I think maybe the third one, just for my own sense, is it's also the time as their careers are taking off and their earnings are going up, that they get offered more and more debt from the banks, right? So because they can afford. And so I'm just going to add, I mean, it's not really an investment mistake, but I think it's a money mistake, is the fact that a bank kind of on the app, I get it on the app and I hate it, but a bank says you now qualify for X thousands of rands additional debt on your credit card, just click here. And the fact that you qualify and the fact that you're able doesn't mean you need to take it up. And I think that for me, maybe that's another big one, is just, using that weapon of wealth distraction, debt, and maybe abusing it is the point. So those are maybe the three that I'd love to focus on, just to get going. So we're talking about millennials making mistakes. What do they do? So let's maybe take your first one. So they don't start investing. And that's a fairly typical mistake, as you said, actually across age groups. But this is a key moment in time for them because they're starting to get additional income, and it's a real kind of lost opportunity if they don't get going. So what are some of the ideas that they can kind of implement to just get going?
So the very first thing that I'd say is having a written budget. That's number one. A budget, and a lot of millennials do not like budgeting. Actually, young people don't like budgeting because it comes with a sense of shame. And I always say to the people that I speak to personally that a budget creates a sense of awareness. It's not a tool to beat yourself over the head with. It's not something that should shame you into oblivion. Your budget is just raising your awareness of how you use your money. And if you are not aware of how you're using your money, then you cannot improve. So I always say to people, look at your budget as a way or an eye opener, and it'll give you areas of improvement. It'll show you areas where you need to improve. So like with me, I used to I love pizza. So I used to buy lots of pizza. And I was not aware of this. I wasn't aware of this until I started budgeting. And so when I started budgeting, and with my budget, I update it every week. So I'm always constantly updating my budget. And then I started noticing a trend that I actually eat too much pizza. Without the budget, I wouldn't have known, because before, I don't remember what I ate 2 weeks ago. But your budget is going to show you where your money is going and where you could be overspending. So the first place is to start with your budget. Your budget should show your income. It should show your fixed expenses. This is your housing, your transport, your food. And your budget should also show everything that you do with your money. And from there, you can then say, oh, where can I allocate this money that I'm currently maybe using too much of it on pizza or whatever it is? Can I start an emergency savings? Can I start investing, for example? But you can't know this without a budget, unfortunately.
I think it's such a good point. If you talk to dietitians and you kind of realize, I hit that at age 30. I was 17 kilograms heavier than I am now. And I was looking in the mirror going, whoa, I don't like what I see there. And the first thing that the dietitian does is she said, just keep track for the next week of everything that you eat, every single thing that you put in your mouth. Just don't change anything. Let's just see what it is that you do. What are you putting in your mouth? And it's only by understanding what it is that you eat that you can start to say, well, hang on, that's really bad for me. Like that, those are the calories I just don't need. And then I could cut them out. And it wasn't radical change. It's not like I changed my entire life and my behavior. I mean, it was cutting out some small things, being consistent and little bits of change at a time. And eventually, months and then 1 or 2 years later, I'm way lighter and managing to keep it off. And I think that the behavior you're talking about is exactly the same. Is if you don't know, you can't change. If you're sitting there and you don't know what you do with your money, how on earth do you figure out that you're spending too much on pizza? In your case, on my case, it was probably beer. I have to own it. And saying, okay, great. So these are the changes. This is what I need to do to kind of tweak it. And I think importantly, budgeting sounds like such a swear word. When I kind of, stand in front of an audience and I say to people, you got a budget, you just see all their eyes roll up. And it's like I'm like a hypnotist. I've just put everyone to sleep. And it's not. It's a spending plan, if you don't like the word. It's just understanding what you do with your money. Gee, it can't be a source of shame. It is you. It's your life. And then really importantly there, I think, is it's not the way you want to spend your money or you think it should be how you spend your money. Your budget is, this is what it is. This is my eating plan. This is how I do it today. This is how I consume my money. And if you're going to make a change, it's small changes. You're not sitting there saying, I overspend by 5,000 Rand a month and next month I'm not going to spend it. What's going to happen is you're going to say, I'm going to drop it by $500 a month. Let me make a small change, because small changes are sustainable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the nice thing with the budgeting is there's so many templates online. So a lot of people don't even know where to get started, how to get started. You can simply just go online, download a budgeting template, and it can be as simple as taking a pen and a paper, if you're old school, and writing it down on a pen and a paper. You can use Microsoft Excel. There's so many tools. There's even budgeting apps that you can download. So you are lost. You are spoiled for choice, literally.
I mean, I think they're not one of our sponsors, so I'm giving them a free plug, but I think 22/7 did a pretty good job on actually building a really nice kind of much more automated budgeting tools. Not perfect, but I love the visual way it shows you how you spend your money and helps to kind of guide you. It almost like helps us gamify ourselves, to say, hang on, here's the bad money and let me like reduce the bad money and build the good money. And I think it's important, we need to know what to do and can't find excuses. And I think maybe that's the one thing I want to say is, don't find reasons not to do this. The point about money is if you got debt issues or, you're building up bad financial habits, the only person that suffers over long periods of time is you. You've got a debt issue. The person that's benefiting is the shareholder of the bank. And surely, you need to kind of take control to get your financial freedom. And that's what we're about in the show is you need to take control of your money. And, and I think you made a powerful point. It's not unique to South Africa, but it is a South African problem that a lot of us deal with is we've got to take care of family, right? We've got to take care of parents, children, siblings, aunts, uncles, and, we've got responsibilities, and I think that, it's something we need to talk about a lot. And again, when you get in an airplane and they do that safety briefing, the first thing one of the first things the air hostess says to you is before you put the oxygen mask on the person next to you, put it on yourself. You've got to help yourself first. You've got to be in a position of getting the oxygen, or being able to breathe, or being able to live, so you can help everyone around you. And for me, that's an important thing in our country is, there's so much pressure on young salaried earners, people that are starting to make it in the world to support their families. And I don't think for a second we're saying don't support your family. We're saying make sure that you're in a position to support them. If you spend all of your salary on supporting your family and then taking on massive debts to support your family as well, what happens is in 1, 3, 5 years' time, you're sitting with more debt than you can possibly deal with, and you become a victim of a perpetuated cycle where you just can't break the chain. So you need to be clear to say, I'm going to help. I need to help, but I need to be in a position to help, and that means I need to be strong. I need to be able to help from a position of strength, not a position of financial weakness.
Absolutely, it's called pouring from a full cup. So you cannot pour from an empty cup. It sounds selfish, but I think we need to have these conversations with our families, be realistic about our budgets, and not be afraid to say, this is what I can do, and I can't go beyond this. If your family loves you, and I'm sure they love you, they will understand. They will understand.
And that means you help more of your family for a longer period of time. You make a much bigger impact on their lives, and you help to kind of move everybody forward. And I think that's the key. You're right. It's not selfish. And if one person's listening and we help them make that mental shift of not being selfish, I'm actually putting myself in a position to help. I think this is a successful show. And then I wanted to maybe talk about, you bring up a powerful point about emotion. So, we're all victims of emotions, right? It doesn't matter your age, your gender. Emotions drive investment decisions very often to the negative. We often make bad investment decisions because of emotions. So I'm fascinated to hear what you think about how we control that. What do we do to stop the emotions overriding our logic?
Well, first of all, is to be aware that we are emotional and that emotions can play tricks on us, because a lot of times people deny it. And those are the people that really, you get surprised. So one thing to do is what I do personally is I try to avoid negativity or negative news about the investment world or about anything in general, because it doesn't help you. Negativity drives fear. It drives, and so when you make decisions when you're scared, you're most likely to make the wrong decision. Same thing with excitement as well. So we should always try to be neutral. When it comes to investing, excitement or fear shouldn't really be the main decision factors that you use to make your decision. It should be more well thought out, more logical. And I like to follow this advice. I don't know who said this, but someone said investing should be like watching paint dry. It shouldn't feel, you shouldn't get emotions like you're at Gold Rush City. It shouldn't feel like you're at the casino. It should feel boring. And from that's how I have actually built my philosophy around investing. It shouldn't make me feel scared or excited. It should just be like paint drying, very boring, steady, and consistent. That's how I do it.
I mean, I can't agree more. I think if you find investing entertaining, you're doing it wrong. And I think it's a key point. And then I watched how you tiptoed around it. I mean, but we've got to talk about FOMO, right? And people who are investing and getting that sense of fear of missing out. Everyone else around me is getting rich, and I'm I'm missing out. And then you dive in. The likelihood is that you're probably diving into something. You said it at the beginning of the show that it's a really expensive share, and you buy it at perfectly the wrong time, because that's just how life works around when you invest with FOMO. Or you end up buying a scam, or you end up buying crypto at the top of the crypto cycle, and everyone else around you is telling you how rich they got out of crypto, and no one's telling you about the losses they made, right? No one brags about that they bought it at 60,000 and it's now worth 2. And those are real stories. And the truth is, the most successful investors who do this incredibly well do it in exactly the way Nozi described. It's about watching paint dry. It's about having a strategy and saying, I'm gonna grow my money slowly but surely, day after day after day, week after week after week, month after month. And when they look back, they go, wow, my balance, my asset balance, not my bank balance, but my asset balance has got quite a few zeros on it now. And I had no entertainment from this. I had entertainment from my sport and my TV and my friends and everything. My investment wasn't a source of entertainment. My investment was a source of financial freedom. And that's the point. Do you want to brag about it and go out on Instagram and show how amazing you are because you bought something that went in at 1 and it's now at 3 and you get a whole lot of likes? Or do you want to be financially free? If you want to be financially free, investing's not exciting. It's boring, but it's hugely rewarding, and it gives you a lot of freedom to do a lot of other things. And those might be really exciting. I'm not for a second going to say that, that investors are boring. It's just that the game of investing is not a game. It's a long-term strategy, and you've got to focus on that. I like that. And I also think maybe, and another tip would be, like if you think about people that want to get fit, one of the easiest ways to kind of get fit is get yourself an exercise buddy, like commit to walking every day, but do it with somebody, or go, get a running buddy or join a running club or whatever it is. And the point about that is it's positive peer pressure. It's easy to lie in bed in the middle of winter in Joburg, when it's -2 degrees and just go, I'll make a plan tomorrow, I'll do something tomorrow. But if someone's waiting for you, then all of a sudden you get up and you get going. And I think that's the key is if you know that you're going to be a little bit emotional around your investments, get an investment buddy. And it's not someone that you're sharing the money with. It's just someone that you say, hey, let's just hold each other to account. We both want to invest. We both commit to a strategy, and let's just have a discussion. And, you can kind of pick up the phone to them, or I suppose we're talking to millennials. So you send them a WhatsApp to say, I'm struggling. I might be suffering from FOMO here, or I might want to do this. I might want to sell or whatever. And your investment buddy goes, hang on, just stay the course. And so that's a nice free tool that you can use where you can help someone else as well, hold them to account, because, it's easy to be unemotional and logical about someone else's money. And so that's the point is, you can use that kind of positive peer pressure. And if you're in a committed relationship, that's another way, couples do this better than individuals because they can hopefully balance each other out, but you got to stay away from FOMO. And Nozi, we're running out of time, and I think I've talked more than you have. I'm sorry, but I want to give you time to prepare for my last question, which is always my favorite question for guests. If you had to meet the now 19 or 21-year-old Nozi, what would be the one life lesson you would love to kind of teach yourself? Now, it can be about money. This is the money show, but if it's something else, equally good. But what would be the one kind of thing that you think you would have loved to know when you were much younger?
I'd have loved to know that I should, from day one of earning my first salary, start putting money away. That's the one thing I'd tell my younger self, to start putting money away and have a budget and don't live life following in the footsteps of other people, like always trying to fit in, keep up with your friends or keep up with whoever. Everybody's path in life is different and we can't all be the same. So if you see somebody driving a car that they're driving, you don't have to envy that. You don't have to aspire to that. That's not your path. Being more confident in my values, what I value, because it took so much time for me to realize that actually I don't like cars for me, they're incredible waste of money, by the way. I at the moment I don't even drive at all and I'm doing fine, but actually when I was younger, I had this pressure to fit in or to do things a certain way because I was now working. You don't have to do that. Charge your own cars and you'll be okay. That's what I would say to my younger self.
Such a powerful point. We look around and you drive around Johannesburg or even Cape Town, and you look at all these massive cars and they cost millions of rands, and you kind of wonder, how is it that everyone can afford these cars and I'm driving my cheap little car? Like, what's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? Now I can tell you from the benefit of having been an advisor to those, to South Africans, rich and poor, for nearly 30 years, I'm getting old. I can tell you most of those cars are bought with debt. And so if you're driving around in your cheap car that's paid off, you're way ahead of most of the people driving the multi-million rand cars who live in 5,000 rand a month apartments, but drive 3 million rand cars. They're not succeeding. You are. And I think it's such a strong point, Nozi. Like, I just wish people, would stop looking around and looking at everyone else. You're not in a race. You're on your journey and looking around and thinking you're doing worse than everyone else because of social media or because of what you see, what they show you. They're showing you a tiny little window of a much bigger picture. And that bigger picture might be very scary. The debt might be massive. The concerns might be huge. And they're putting on a good show, but actually, really stressed and really concerned about life. And I think it's important, we need to be honest about this stuff. There's lots of people with lots of money problems, but they don't show it. And until life kind of falls over. So I think it's a great point. I think the only other thing I would have said to myself is start buying solar. But that's about the only other point I would have added. But thank you so much for being on the show. It's a real pleasure to have you. I think you add such valid points, and I'm glad we could agree on a lot of them. And I look forward to having you back on the show again in the future.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Warren, because there's so much I want to say. And of course, time goes by quickly when you're enjoying yourself. So thank you so much for hosting me. I'd love to come back. So I'll be waiting for your invite.
Brought to you by Prescient Investment Management. Informed by science. Guided by insight. Prescient Investment Management is an authorized FSP